His youth 1836 to 1843. Fyodor Dostoevsky in 1859. On September 27, 1837, Fyodor's mother died of tuberculosis. In May of the same year, his parents sent him, along with his brother Mikhail, to study at the Mykolaiv Military Engineering Institute in St. Petersburg. Because of this, he was forced to leave academic studies and focus on his future and strengthening his military career. He was accepted into the institute and began studying there in January 1838. As for his brother Michael, he was rejected for health reasons and moved to study in the city of Raval in Estonia. Fyodor disliked the academy, due to his lack of interest in science, mathematics, and military engineering and his preference for drawing and architecture. As his friend Konstantin Trotovsky once described him, Fyodor's personality and interests made him an outsider among his 120 classmates. He showed courage and a sense of justice, protection for newcomers, bias toward teachers rather than students, criticism of corrupt officers, and assistance to poor peasants. Although he was isolated and lived in his own literary world, he was respected by his fellow students, and the students nicknamed him Priest Photius. Signs of epilepsy appeared on Fyodor for the first time when he learned of his father's death on June 16, 1839. Although the source of this information was his daughter Lobov, which many historians consider unreliable, Freud later worked on it. His father died mainly from a stroke, but his neighbor, Pavel Klushintsev, claimed that he had been murdered by his relatives. If the charge that he had been murdered was proven, Klushintsev would almost have been able to buy the vacated lands. The case ended with the claim being denied in a trial in Tula, but his brother Andrei defended the story. After the death of his father, Fyodor completed his studies, graduated from the academy, and was given the title of military engineer, which allowed him to go and live away from the academy. So he went and visited his brother Michael in Ravel, and attended plays, orchestral performances, and ballet. During that period, two of his friends introduced him to gambling. On August 12, 1843, Fyodor worked as a lieutenant engineer and lived with Adolf Totleben in an apartment owned by Dr. Riesenkampf, a friend of Michael's. Riesenkampf described him by saying, "He is no less kind or polite than his brother, but when he is not in a good mood he often stares into nothingness, forgets good manners, and sometimes even reaches the point of insolence and loss of self-awareness." In that year, Fyodor completed his first literary work, a translation of the novel Eugénie Grandet by Honoré de Balzac, which was published in the June-July issues of Repertoire and Pantheon. A number of unsuccessful translations followed, and his financial difficulties initially led him to pursue a career in writing novels. Early career 1844 to 1849. Dostoevsky in 1847. Fyodor Dostoevsky finished his first novel, Poor People, in May 1845, 2 years after publishing his first translation of Balzac. His friend Dmitry Grigorovich, who was his roommate at the time, took the draft to the poet Nikolai Nekrasov, editor-in-chief of the magazine Savremennik, and he in turn showed it to the influential literary critic Vissarion Belinsky. Belinsky described it as the first Russian social novel. Poor People was published on January 15, 1846, as part of the St. Petersburg periodical collection and was a commercial success. Fyodor realized that his military career would jeopardize his now thriving literary career, so he wrote a letter asking to resign from his position. Shortly after, he wrote his second novel, The Doppelganger, and it was published in Notes of the Fatherland on January 30, 1846, before being published in February of the same year. At the same time, Dostoevsky learned about socialism and its ideas through his reading of French thinkers such as Fourier, Capet, Proudhon, and Simon. During his acquaintance with Belinsky, he expanded the philosophy of socialist ideas. He was attracted to the logic of socialism, its sense of justice, and its concern for the destitute and disadvantaged. His relationship with Belinsky became increasingly tense, especially after he revealed that he was an atheist, which conflicted with Fyodor's Russian Orthodox beliefs, but in the end he accepted him. After its publication, the novel received negative criticism, and Fyodor's health was getting worse and he had more epileptic seizures than before, but he continued writing. During the period from 1846 to 1848, he published several short stories that were published in the magazine Annals of the Fatherland. These novels include Mr. Prokarkin, The Housewife, A Weak Heart, and White Nights. These stories were not successful and most of them were met with mixed opinions, which put Fyodor in financial problems again, so he joined the utopian socialist Bedikov League, which helped him escape from his miserable situation. When the association ended, Fyodor had befriended Apollon Maykov and his brother Valerian Maykov. In 1846, on the recommendation of the poet Alexei Pleshchev, he joined the Petrushevsky League, which was founded by Mikhail Petrushevsky, who demanded reforms in Russian society. Mikhail Bakunin once wrote to Alexander Herzen that the group was the most harmless association and its members were organized opponents of all revolutionary aims and meanings. Fyodor used the League's library on Saturdays and Sundays and sometimes participated in discussions on emancipation and the abolition of slavery. In 1849 the first part of Natachka Nesvanovna was published in the magazine. He had been planning it since 1846, but his exile ended the project. He did not attempt to complete the novel after that.